All right. I think we can begin. Eventually, we are hoping that there would be more people who would be joining this event. I would like to first begin by extending a very warm welcome to each one of you on behalf of Azad Foundation, ESCAP, and Non-Traditional Livelihoods Network to this virtual side event on sustainable and evidence-based solutions in enabling women's workforce participation, primarily focusing on building gender-inclusive infrastructure in public spaces for women. As you all know, this event is being organized as part of the high-level political forum on sustainable development. Through this, we want to bring into focus inclusive and care infrastructure, both in public and workspaces, into mainstream discussions on sustainable development, and also foreground it as a prerequisite and necessity for achieving SDG 5 and 8 goals. Essentially, this discussion is going to focus through insights shared by the panel speakers and also during discussions, the challenges in achieving these SDG goals in the absence or lack of safe, accessible infrastructure, including roads, public toilets, transportation, and other such facilities. Some of the questions that we want to really talk about is also not just the challenges, but what are the enabling factors that help in creating gender-inclusive infrastructure in public spaces, and what is needed to have these. And also from the governance perspectives, what can be the initiatives that can be taken. We are hoping to bring in some key recommendations through these discussions and also raise these as critical factors while reviewing the SDG goals at the regional and country levels. On that note, I would like to invite now Mikiko Tanaka, Director South and Southwest Asia Sub-Regional Office, UNESCAP, to moderate this session. Over to you, Mikiko.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rajeshwari. And may I join her in welcoming all of you as well. So I'm really excited to be part of this. You know, we started this conversation on this very important issue in Bangkok in February at the Asia Pacific Forum for Sustainable Development. So I'm so happy that you, Azad Foundation, also Non-Traditional Livelihoods Network, has taken this to New York and to the world. So that's, I think, very interesting perspectives, messages, experiences can also be shared. So I'd be happy to moderate. So what we're going to do, we have 5 distinguished panelists here, including Rajeshwari as well. But we're going to have like 4 rounds of interventions from the panelists on sub-themes of this major, the big theme that we have. And then after that, we'll have a discussion session where, questions and answers and also contributions can be taken by the wider floor. So please hold your questions, jot it down as you go. So let me start first by a session on, or an intervention on, enablers and constraints in women's sustainable mobility and inclusive public spaces, experiences of gig workers in South Asia. And our distinguished panelist here is Ms. Kalpana Vishnawat, the co-founder and CEO of Safetipin in India. And there's 2 guiding questions that we'd like her to respond to. One is, what are the unique mobility and safety challenges faced by women gig workers in South Asian cities? And how do these impact their participation in the workforce? The second one is, what data-driven or technology-enabled solutions have shown promise in shaping more inclusive and safe public spaces for women, particularly those working in informal or platform-based sectors? So you have 10 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mikiko and Rajeshwari, and I thank ESCAP and Azad for inviting me to this really important discussion. The 2 questions that you have asked are really at the heart of the work that Safetipin does. So I am going to share a presentation, just a few slides that will help me share the tools that we've been working on. Is it visible to everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can put it on slideshow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
So, I just want to begin with what Safetipin is. Safetipin is an organization. We're about 12 years old, and we work really towards build gender transformation of cities. And we have several tools that we use for this. And this is broadly the framework that we developed a few years ago on which we call She Rises for responsive, inclusive, safe, and equitable urban systems. And Mikiko, your question about what are some of the tools, data-based tools as well as tech-based tools that can enable women's participation. I think through our work, we've really found that a systemic perspective on building gender responsive and eventually gender transformation in our cities requires a commitment to address a wide range of issues, from policy initiatives, looking at public spaces and infrastructure, mobility and transport, services and amenities, as well as the response to gender-based violence. And our work has really been to build governments and other local bodies, transport departments, NGOs, community-based organizations, work with them and build the capacity to actually start building some of these initiatives. So some of the changes, of course, are things like improved physical infrastructure like street lighting and walkability, but also public toilets, which is a very big issue for women who work in public spaces, whether they are street vendors, but also whether they are women working in the transport sector. So looking at the entire public transport system, safety, and how do we enhance women within the transport sector, which is really what one of the key things that Azad Foundation does. But we know that it is extremely low. It is like globally, it is under 25%. And in India and South Asia, it is well below 10%. But also we have to recognize that if women have to live and work in cities, we have to address issues of housing, childcare, healthcare, helplines, crisis centers. And so we've tried to really build a systemic way of looking at the public space, public services, and public infrastructure. So what we do really is we do have several technology tools. We use this for bringing data-driven evidence to city governments, to transport departments, to other stakeholders, and then from that have a gender transformative, gender responsive way of working to design interventions, policies, on-ground initiatives, as well as more placemaking and women-centered initiatives. Our work has been across India, but across many other countries as well. So we have three technology tools, and all of these are for data collection of different kinds that can be used to map the way that women use public space, the way that women move in public spaces, and the kind of infrastructure that exists. So the one you see on the left is a free crowdsourced app called My Safetipin, which you can all download and take a look. You can do a safety audit. You can see data about safety score and nearby places. We also have two other methods of data collection. One is Safetipin Night for large-scale street-level mapping of through images, and Safetipin Site, which is a GIS-enabled questionnaire tool to do more qualitative and spatial data around public spaces in cities. So these are the kind of tools that we use largely to work to collect data, which then we hope we present as evidence of women's experience of the city. I do want to focus a little bit on gig work, since you asked me, Mikiko, because we recently have done a study about gig work in South Asia. And we did find that actually 56% of the global supply of gig labor originates from these 5 countries in the global South. And on-demand ride-hailing and delivery platforms are the major one here. Women's participation in the gig economy remains very low, especially in ride-hailing and delivery drivers. There is some in logistics-based gig work globally, but as in all other elements of participation in the workforce in this as well, while there are many new opportunities, we find that it is still quite low on the whole. So what did we find? That basically there are 4 kinds of barrier, sort of more 8 kinds of barriers that women face. One is the digital divide, because to do most of this gig work, you do need to have access to a smartphone to get jobs, to respond to them, and the whole range of things. Across South Asia, there's a 34% gender gap, which is women's lack of access to their own smartphone. Financial barriers, of course. So if you want to do ride hailing, if you have to buy a car, a two-wheeler, you need resources, you need to get a bank loan often, and these often women do not have access to. Then, of course, there's societal norms which say that these are masculine male jobs and women cannot do it. Driving being one of them, delivery, which includes driving, a lot of other back-end gig work in the warehouses, which is seen as needing strength in terms of carrying things and all. So these are seen as masculine jobs. Of course, in today's new technology, they do not actually require strength in that sense. And a big one, of course, that prevents women from joining is the risk of sexual harassment and actual violence. We know that women drivers face this. We know that if women have to do delivery, they are worried about places that they have to go to at night. Women as drivers face worries about who is going to be the passenger, especially after dark. So these are the 4 broad issues. And then the other 3 are actually, the other 4 are lack of resting infrastructure, because a lot of gig works requires that you navigate through public space to deliver your services. And the lack of public toilets, resting places, charging stops prevents women from being able to freely use it. And really, the issue of public toilets and resting is an important one, because women often have told us that they do not drink water, they do not drink anything the whole day, so that they don't have to use the toilet. And of course, there is the issue of menstruation and other health issues. We did find when in our few conversations with women, but also with the platforms, the issue of algorithms. The algorithms are designed gender neutral, so to say. But if women need to be larger numbers on the platform, maybe the algorithms need to take into consideration things like a woman passenger can choose a woman driver, or a woman driver at certain times can choose certain areas not to go to, etc., keeping in mind that we still have a lot of violence on our streets, in our public spaces, and even within the homes. Women, there is still pay disparity, which we know. And finally, there's actually a lack of good data around this. We don't have data about what are actually the challenges that women are facing. How many women are there actually on these platforms? Because some of them are also informal, and the data does not necessarily come within the public sector. What is limiting their participation? Which kind of women are participating? Is it more in the rural areas? Is it better in very large cities? Or are there certain parts of the country where you see more women drivers or more women delivery partners than others? So this is the sort of kind of barriers that we face. But as right up front, I think Mikiko and Rajeshwari mentioned, all of us have been working in this spaces a lot, and we felt it's also important to start talking about what can be done, because it is one needs to point out the problems, but I think we're also at a time that we can talk to platforms, we can look at policies. We know that at least in India, the national government as well as several state governments are introducing bills on social security. There have been legislation which has not allowed these platforms to look at the workers as within quote partners, but to actually accept the fact that they're workers and therefore they need workers' rights. So really for women, there are 4 broad categories of recommendations that we would like to share.
Wrap up.
Yeah. One is, of course, physical safety, which is to have gender segregated rides, maybe sometimes looking at unsafe locations. But secondly, also things like helping them get driving licenses, etc. The third is financial support. This is loans, waiving cancellation fees for unsafe rides, helping them get phones. And finally, really to improve their digital financial literacy, technical and soft skills building programs. These are some of the broad recommendations that we came up with. And I will end there for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really a comprehensive and systemic approach. And, I think regardless of where you are, I think women can really understand those barriers, the way you framed it. And I love your apps, the tool to actually, monitor and collect data for improvement. So thank you so much for sharing that. So we're going to move on to governance challenges and solutions for women's participation in workforce and ensuring decent work conditions. So I'd like to invite Ms. Binda Pandi, who's a member of the Constituent Assembly and ex-member of Parliament from Nepal. And again, I have 2 questions. So one is, what are the key governance and institutional challenges that hinder women's sustained participation in the workforce, particularly in the global south? And what governance mechanisms can strengthen gender-responsive planning, budgeting, and accountability for enabling women's access to decent work? So you have 10 minutes, please. Over to you.
Thank you, Mikiko. And thank you very much for organizer inviting me to be the part of this session. I'm audible or not?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. So actually, yeah, I was just focusing on the governance challenges, and then what can be the solution for women participation in the workforce to ensure the decent work. I have prepared a very brief presentation. Actually, Kalpana ji presented many things so nicely. So almost the half of my presentation it is covered already. And then whatever I'll be presenting here, I have seen in the participant list many the Nepali youth, and then some of the ex-parliamentarian also, and then the social activists and the politician also, they are joining this session. So the later on maybe they also can add some missing points from the Nepal side if we could have that time. But basically, when we talk about this, the decent work condition, and it is defined by the ILO, it is the first thing. So we have to get the employment, and then after having the job, then we should have a remuneration, good remuneration, and then the social security should be covered, and then every worker should have this, the space to have a social dialogue. So these are the 4 basic elements of the decent work condition. And then especially, now we are going to link it up with this the SDGs also. So I'm just focusing on the SDGs as part of the the state responsibility regarding the gender equality. This is the goal number 5. So it includes some, some points like, enhancing the infrastructure. What already the Kalpanaji has mentioned that it should we should have the, the toilet and child care center, transportation, health, and this the occupational health and safety matter, and then the harassment, it is another big issue at the workplace also. So if there is anything would happen, so whether there would be some that kinds of mechanism also. So these are the one part, and another is this this the social service part also, that this the child care and health service, all these things. And next is the social security measure should be there, and then this the collective responsibility, it should be there. So it is also mentioned in the this SDG. And regarding all these things, the household work, it should be the the counted as a national income. So these are the things. And if we just look at the some of the policy paper in the South Asia, and the many of these things, it is mentioned in the policy paper. And then if you ask about the the Nepal, many things, it has already the part of the constitution also. So somehow it has been addressed by the policy and law, but we are facing a lot of problem of the enforcement. Okay, what happened? Yeah. Then regarding this yeah. So when we talk about this, the decent work environment, we have to see in the the two way. Not only this the the state, it is a one part, and then this the work-life balance. It is relating with the state and the community, and then the household also. So I'm just trying to split this in the two part. So when we talk about this the work-life balance, it is relating with this the recognition of the work, and then a reduction of the traditional this the gender role, and then it should be the redistribution of the job among the different member in the family, as well as in the community and the organization, as well as this the representing this community should be also balanced by gender. So in this regards, the basic points I'm just the mentioning here, it is the one thing is this the living wage. So it means wherever the women's they are engaging, so they should have a living wage. So it should be also the part of the our lobbying and our campaign. And when we talk about the living wage, so we have to value this the care work. So mostly the women's they are engaging. And another part, this in the family, it should be the very conducive family environment. So it means the basically whatever things is there in the household, it should be shared among the the member, because especially in the South Asia, it is very gendered. So we have to break that kinds of the limitation and that kinds of barrier. So this is the one part. And another part, when we talk about this, the the state responsibility. So data system should be there. It is already elaborated by the Kalpanaji. So I don't think I have to elaborate more. But we don't have any data, and then because there is no data system, so the wherever the women's they are involving in the workforce, so they don't have a identity as a the workers. So it should be the part of this the data system, and then it should be developed by the state. And then the another side, it is of course this is the friendly and the support friendly gender friendly support system should be there. So that is also already we mentioned about this the the different types of the infrastructure. And then this the social security matter, we already talked about that. I think I missed the one. So this part is actually it is my recommendation. But before that also, yeah, we have already talked about this the social. I missed actually the one slide here. Okay, so these are the things we have to work, and then achieving all these things, especially we have to focus our work to organize the the women workers wherever they are working, and then we have to link our work with them, and then actually what kinds of the problem they are facing themselves. So we have to try to get the the first-hand information, and then if we could have this the first-hand information collect from them, so then we can make locally proper recommendation and the proper demands. So this is just the wider and the broader framework. But to identify the different sectors have the different problem, and this is the community wise, geographical wise, and then the gender wise and the profession wise. So we have to develop that kinds of the local charter of demands or the issues, and then based on that issue we have to lobby, and then we have to collaborate among the different sector also to support each other, and then the coordination, collaboration, and then the co-work, it will bring us to the positive result. So thank you very much. I stop here now. So later, if there is any question, maybe we can discuss on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bindaji. A lot of similar messages echoed from the previous presentation, but maybe later, if you have time, be really keen to hear your experience as a politician, how to, open up that space and to, make things, the changes happen in the political space. But thank you so much. This was on Nepal, but similar issues, I think, wherever the countries are. I'm going to move next to the next sub-theme, which is experiences and evidence from the ground, women's access to basic and affordable infrastructure. This is from India. And we have two presenters who are going to jointly make interventions here. Ms. Nandita Shah, the co-director of the Akshara Centre, and then, of course, Rajeshwari Balasubramanian, the thematic lead research analysis and communications of the Azad Foundation, the co-organizer of this event. And the two questions I'd like to pose here are, based on your work with urban and marginalized communities, what are the key infrastructure-related barriers that limits women's mobility, safety, and access to work? And what community-led or evidence-based approaches have effectively improved women's access to public infrastructure, such as transport, sanitation, or housing, and how can these be scaled or institutionalized? So together you have like 20 minutes. So if you could, I'll pop in at 10-minute mark. Please start.
So who's starting? Rajeshwari, you or me?
It's up to you. Who wants to start?
Go ahead. I'll go after you.
So I just want to thank you and Rajeshwari for getting us on board here. And I think, like what everybody has said, it's a very important discussion. And even within SDG, how do we really frame it as a critical question? And I'm going to also quickly go through a presentation just to give an idea of how we are looking at this whole intervention. Sorry.
Can you click on slideshow at the bottom?
Yeah.
Yes, perfect.
For us, we are an old organization, a women's rights organization, and we started working on really looking at empowering community, and we work with young people, and we feel that the most important thing to really overcome is the fear that most of the time the young girls face in accessing the public spaces. So there's a whole load of things that we are doing around like night out, reclaim the night. We are doing many different ways of empowering them through workshops, self-defense, so that we feel is a very important part of building their own sense of confidence in accessing the public spaces. The second big part of it is how do we get men as part of the solution, and how do we engage them as not only recognizing their role as bystander, but also being part of the way in which they can stop others doing it. So that's a big part of, we believe, an engagement that we all need to do much more than what's happening now. The second part we feel is very important. How do we strengthen the response system? And we've been working with the police and with all transport authorities on how do we strengthen the response system. And we began this police helpline in 2008 and is still functioning very effectively in city of Mumbai. And we are talking about many women calling up this number and police responding to that. And that kind of pressure group is something that needs to be there on ground, but police collaboration is also an important part, because the kind of numbers they reach, we are never able to reach those kinds of number. The second part of our work is really to build alliances with transport authorities. So we have done it with Mumbai Transport, and now recently we did a huge campaign and huge collaboration with the Maharashtra State Transport. 18 lakh women, that is 1.8 million women, are traveling every day by bus. And this is the kind of experience that we need to change to make them feel empowered and being able to access transport. And I think that's an important area that we feel we need to do. This campaign that we launched with MSRTC has reached 15 million views, and it's gone beyond to every conductor in the state, and many more people have been engaged in this process. Similarly, we have train as a major transport. So how do we get them to really respond to safety of women in the railways? And I think those are important issues. And what kind of response system can we have? What we are finding is that we have to also look at specific areas where we can actually talk about. So streets is something we talk about. We even do college audits and get management to take up issues that young women have raised in their own college. But we find specific areas like subways as one thing that we really have to take up, because that's where a lot of women are finding difficult. They don't access, they take a longer route because they don't want to access those spaces. So, you know, when we are talking about transport, we have to look at these connectivity and look at them from accessibility, design, security. So we've collaborated with architects and urban planners to see what kind of alternative and placemaking changes that we can bring about. But so, you know, these are the like quick fixes, short term, long term. These are the ways in which we are engaging our municipal corporation to take up, you know, whatever they can do in each of these subways. And we have studied all the subways in Mumbai. But the biggest thing that we feel that we really need to do to engage larger number of women in workforce is to make sure that there are enough amenities and services provided by the municipal corporation in for women. And that's the only way a workforce participation can be increased, if there are services like care centers for children, care centers for senior citizen, multiple housing for women. Like as single women, when you come to a city, you're not able to access housing, especially in a city like Mumbai. It's extremely biased against single women renting a place. How do you make sure that women are actually able to access? And we found that when we took this argument that Mumbai has only 16% of workforce participation, it's the financial city, it's one of the largest city in the country. And that's where really the municipal corporation took it up. And in the development plan of Mumbai, we have now land reserve for each of these services across every ward. So it's not like a pilot, it's there in every ward. And these services then can actually provide what's required for women to access both the public spaces as well as the workplace. We have, like what I was saying, multi-purpose housing, care centers, skill building and marketing centers, affordable housing, and shelters for homeless and senior citizen. And this is a kind of framework that we need to provide to every municipal corporation, that if they applied their land use and made available land for certain services for women, because these are all 20-year plans. And once they are made, and if women are not included at that time, they are out of the picture. And then we can all demand, but then we are just waiting for the private sector to respond to it. So we need to get responsive government to actually take this up and provide for these reservation of land so that nothing else can come up. And we already have the first 14-story structure going to house many women, almost 172 women over a period of time. That has already come up. Government has invested in it. We have been able to design for it. So we feel that if it can be done in Mumbai, it can be done in any city in India, but also any city in the world, that if land use is something we can intervene, it really makes a huge difference in a long-term vision of what we want from the city. Sorry for going so fast, but I had to finish. Thank you.
No, that was wonderful. And thank you, Barbara, for your sharing. It's really great. I thought that was really good. Okay, so Rajesh, would you like to continue?
Sure. Thank you so much, Mikiko and Nandita. That was really wonderful, and bringing in that solution and how you had engaged with the municipal corporation in Mumbai. Shikha, can we also share the presentation so that...
Yes.
So going forward in the same, the same topic of discussion, which is we're also bringing in some experiences from the ground and also evidence-based experiences. Like Nandita had shared for Mumbai, we have done a couple of studies in Delhi and also Kolkata, two major metropolitan cities in India. And we would be talking about women's access to basic and affordable infrastructure in these two cities. But even before going that, we would like a couple of minutes I would like to invest in looking at the current scenario, especially for audiences who have joined from different parts of the world and perhaps maybe not really aware about this context. So we know that the current situation, if we look at the female labor force participation, we have seen that there is an improvement. Definitely 41.7% is where we stand. However, I want to also focus on the fact that there is a difference in the rural participation and urban. Urban still remains at around 25.8%, which is very low. And also most of this labor force is concentrated in informal, unskilled roles, especially women who are concentrated in these roles. And this is something that is worrisome. And non-traditional livelihoods, which is a major part of the work that Azad does. We know that livelihoods which have traditionally been occupied by men, women's participation is still staggeringly low. By that, I mean professions like driving, plumbing, for instance, electrical work, all these things, women are practically in very low percentages. We also recognize that there are several other barriers. Other people have already spoken about them, say, for instance, restricted mobility, patriarchal norms, gender-based violence. However, out of all this, we see missing infrastructure, lack of gender-responsive infrastructure as a major barrier for women's workforce participation. That doesn't mean that schemes don't exist. In the Indian context, we know that recently, the last few years, Swachh Bharat Mission has been given a lot of weightage. We also know that there is an expansion of metros across a number of metropolitan cities, which is an improvement. However, these essentially fail to prioritize women's specific needs, and we will be seeing how and why there is a need to do that. Moving forward, we also wanted to share a little bit on how these are connected issues. And already Kalpana and Bindaji have spoken about the gender division of labor. So I wouldn't be talking too much about it, except for the fact that it leads to time poverty for women. And also lack of safe transport limits their participation, say by 16.5%. More significantly, they are absent from these sectors when it comes to decision making. This is something that we need to really consider, because if we are talking about designing these, which need to be gender inclusive infrastructures, where are women in the decision-making structures? They're hardly there, whether we talk about WASH or we talk about, infrastructure sectors per se. Considering this, I also wanted to share a study that was published, say, 3 years back in the context of Delhi, where the status of public toilets in Delhi, and these are the 3 main things. The study was essentially done by People's Vision of the City and ActionAid. And we can see that around these 3 themes, what is the situation like? Signboards, 72% of the public toilets don't have visible signboards. Within the accessibility for women also, we also need to recognize that they're not a homogeneous unit. We also see that women with disabilities, the access for ramps, it's lacking. Functionality of these toilets is a major issue. Hygiene and sanitation, even a basic thing like hand wash facility, 52% of these toilets didn't have that. So in this context, I want to share that Azad Foundation, which was established in 2008, empowers disadvantaged women in urban India with skills and knowledge to build a gender-just society, and primarily working to secure the dignified livelihoods in non-traditional fields. When we talk about dignified livelihoods, basic infrastructure is a key enabler. And earlier speakers have also spoken about that. And in this, we want to also say that the need for the evidence for this also emerged from the women themselves. Our engagement with women drivers resulted in us understanding that why there was a need for evidence, because they repeatedly shared that how this lack of infrastructure was a barrier for them to be sustaining in these workforces. We will also be bringing some policy recommendations like others and highlight a community-led initiative that is a part of one of our programs. One of the studies that we did last year was on transport depots across Delhi. And these were 8 transport depots, which are being used by actually 45 women bus drivers, 25 marshals, and you can see so many, conductors. And again, the 4 issues are, are emerging again and again. Access is an issue. Hygiene and sanitation. There are toilets, but they are not maintained to the standard that they should be. And most significantly, when it comes to drivers, they need rest spaces, especially when in between their, in between their schedules, and also when there's a breakdown. They don't have these rest spaces. 6 out of 8 depots lack this. And safety, especially because of the lighting problem, women were reluctant to go to these, toilets. So this is something repeatedly they shared with us and during the study. Now focusing on another urban location in Kolkata. Just last month, the study was done in partnership with Sabar Institute, which is based in Kolkata, where more than 6,000 women domestic workers, street vendors, gig workers, and drivers and informal sector workers were surveyed. And we can see that 73% of the women, they actually don't want to pay. So I want to just focus a minute on the issue of affordability. Most of these public toilets, one needs to pay around 5 rupees per usage. And these women don't earn so much that they would be able to pay that much. And 10% of their daily wages goes in this. So we can imagine it's like a financial burden, added financial burden, or added tax, which they are not expected to pay at all. They are doing that. So, and across 10 major railway stations, and why these railway stations are important, because from the outskirts of Kolkata, women travel to the major city, and this is an access point for them. And we saw that toilet facilities were almost less than half as compared to those available for men. So that's where mobility restrictions come into the picture. These pictures are real pictures that we have brought in, based on the study of findings. And safety, as we know, is a definite issue. But one thing that I want to highlight is that most of the attendees here are male. And women therefore don't want to use, because women attendees are not there. And they are reluctant to therefore go inside. They don't feel safe about it. Going forward, I also want to say that hygiene, and very much connected to health. 24% women said they deliberately don't take water. They reduce their water intake because they are worried that, the toilet will not be available for them. Sanitary napkin vending machines is a far-fetched idea, I think, because even in the depot study and here, we saw that this was something that was missing across toilets. All this is connected to income and workforce participation, definitely. 40% of the women believe lack of access to public toilets affects their work or income, and 88% believe that they wanted a women-specific public toilet with all these facilities would improve their working conditions. So these are some of the highlights of these studies that we wanted to bring in. But I also want to highlight that, these are issues, but when we talk about community-led initiatives, we are working with women leaders, and they engage with us for 1 year across 4 locations. We have about a cohort of 30 leaders, and they facilitate, as part of their training program, improvement in basic infrastructure within their own communities. They work on issues related to toilet, and they have been engaging with government authorities, navigate these procedures, mobilize community members to demand their entitlements. And this has worked really well, because we will be later showing you a very short video connected to that, to say that how these women have led to women's initiatives, have led to actually construction of bus stands and better sanitation facilities in their own communities. And perhaps these models are also very much needed for grassroots governance. Finally, we bring in very broad recommendations. These are broad, primarily related to what was shared with us. And we feel that it's very important. We know that policies do exist. However, robust monitoring mechanisms don't exist. And that's what leads to, poor quality of these facilities across urban locations, and also definitely in rural areas. We need to strengthen partnerships for evidence building between government and CSOs. Would be a great idea. Campaigns and awareness, I think Nandita has already spoken about the power of that. And finally, universal accessible facilities are absolutely needed. Nobody should be excluded out of this. And it's not that, certain communities, because of their disadvantaged positions economically and socially, they are not included in these as part of these facilities and able to access them. I would like to end here, but we just want to show a very short clip, Mikiko, if there's time. Shikha, can you just show that clip before we
Is it
close
possible
this?
to go over time? Because I just realized that we only have like 12 minutes left till the end of the hour. Can we, and we still have one more, unless we haven't done the discussion yet. Can we go over time?
I think so, if it's okay with everybody.
I'm sure the video is interesting. So it's very short, right?
It's just 2 minutes,
Quickly.
Mikiko.
Yeah. Huh? 3 minutes. That's
2 minutes is long.
2 minutes,
long,
just
too
2
long.
minutes.
Mine was 30 seconds and I didn't.
Flavor, 30 seconds, flavor. And then
Okay.
later we can share, because I want to allow people to also talk.
All right.
So should I show it now? Rajeshwari, you're on mute.
Okay, maybe we should just go on to the next intervention. and
Yeah,
then
we can have Neha's, and
maybe
then
at the
maybe we'll have
end, let's
time.
show the
Wait,
video.
why don't
right?
we do a presentation of the video at the end? if
Yeah, I
we
agree.
have time?
Okay.
Okay,
But
thank
thank you
you.
so much, both of you. I think these presentations showed, I think a lot of issues. The data was fantastic, and also the human elements, the capacity building, raising awareness. But let me just move quickly to the last panelist here on advancing women's workforce participation in South Asia, challenges and opportunities. And we have our colleague, Ms. Neha Vadavan, National Project Coordinator of ILO in India. I'm going to skip the questions. You can dive into the what you wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mikiko-san. And I just wanted to say thank you to both you and ESCAP and Azad Foundation for inviting me to participate and share some of the experience that ILO has in terms of engaging with some of these issues. I also think this is a very important conversation between organizations on the ground that actually work on women's issues and those of us who work much more closely with labor movements, because this conversation is really important in terms of building strategic alliances as we go ahead. I'm also thrilled to be, witness to a discussion where we've moved beyond what we understand as conventional ideas of infrastructure, to looking at policy infrastructures as well as, care infrastructures, which sort of cuts across what we experience on the ground, as well as how we look at policy much more in recent times. So very quickly, jumping into one of the questions that was asked for me to respond to, which was on structural and policy barriers. I'd just like to highlight, and much has been said, to which I agree. I'd just like to highlight that I think one of the issues, based on the lessons we've learned in South Asia, we can say is that there is a tendency to look at women as beneficiaries rather than agential actors, right? So I think that is really important to consider how women actually can participate in policy making as well as understanding. And I think, the work of the Akshara and Nandita, as well as Azad Foundation, Rajeshwari Dolan, etc. I think it's really goes to show that, they can effectively contribute to robust policy making at the ground, right? But we also have to understand that it's so difficult for them to access mobility outside the household. So there is a tendency, again, to enable women to find work very close to the household, so that we actually don't end up breaking stereotypes around how public amenities should be accessed and how far women can go and be safe while they carry out this work, right? So I think the forced conditions, like using toilets which are not hygienic, is sort of a package deal that women actually encounter when they struggle to actually find decent wages and decent working conditions. So what I think also, linking with what Bindaji was saying, I think the fact that it's so important also to look at government policies, but also look at, I think, access to collective bargaining and freedom of association, because asking for living wages can perhaps offset some of these costs, right, of accessing very privatized provisioning of infrastructure. And we can see more and more there's a tendency for that to happen. But at the same time, I think struggle together to basically demand public access and public provisioning for some of these, very critical forms of infrastructure that women require. Because a lot of women work actually in the public space, and they work in unregulated workplaces where, to get to, so I'm now thinking of domestic workers that we've been working with very closely, for example, accessing the workplace, they really need to use streets and public transport and a various, engagement with the public space before they can reach the private household where they deliver their services. So it's really then important for domestic worker trade unions, for example, to be brought into this conversation, right, on inclusive infrastructures, when we look at them as not just beneficiaries, but also as agential actors. And I'm going to say also this, that, it's been really fascinating to see how trade unions do a lot of work on the ground with informal workers to also demand decent living conditions, right, in addition to decent working conditions. So the fact that a lot of the urban informal workforce, including women, are actually located in a condition where, there is much to be achieved in terms of a decent life. I think that's something that we all need to think about and work together on. I also would like to take a minute to talk about some unintended policy implications that we've observed. And again, I think governments and sometimes those of us who are engaged in trying to inform policy-making processes make very well-intentioned interventions. But what is important is to actually evaluate how these interventions actually play out on the ground. So, for example, I think there's been an interesting research which basically points to the fact that, the bus pass scheme in a particular city basically did, the intention was that it will enable women's access to the workplace, by discounting the cost in transportation. However, there is research that shows that in certain cases, the unpaid care work burden of women actually went up because husbands were reported as asking women to actually go and drop off children to work, to school, instead of being able to use that service to perhaps access paid work. The other thing that we also see is that I think in terms of inclusive cities again, right? Looking at footpaths, looking at flyovers, how these are built and whether they can be accessed by those who really need to, perhaps walk and access them because they cannot just afford some of these amenities, is also something to consider. I'm quickly going to jump to an issue of, that I was asked to sort of
Sorry
talk
to
a
cut
little
you
bit about.
off. Can you
Yeah.
wrap up? There are some questions and we have like
Yes,
only
I
4
will
minutes.
wrap up. I will wrap up in lesser time than I had hoped to have. But just to sort of end by flagging 2 points, Mikiko-san. One is that I think decent work and inclusive infrastructure goes hand in hand. And I think regional cooperation and evidence sharing is really important. So avenues like this, the importance of working together with different actors, and the role of UN agencies in actually bringing together spaces for this conversation is really important. But having said that, I think it's really important to consider political will, right? To actually make some of these policies into effective programs that can enable women to then engage, productively in the workforce and be paid members of the workforce. So I think strategies for collaboration need to be made, and we all need to put our minds together on how, CSOs, women's organizations, trade unions, governments, and perhaps employers' representatives also need to be brought into a conversation to deal with some of these issues. And then just saying that I think the SDG goals give us a fantastic opportunity to be able to do that, because much of them are interconnected, and happy to be part of this high-level panel as taking forward the discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nehaji. Sorry to rush you. If there are people who have to leave, I just want to say thank you. And please, pass on these messages if you're in New York at the High Level Political Forum. I think there's lots of good content from the presenters. So I just want to take a couple of questions. Please, if you can raise your hand in the reaction box or whatever. And I see one in the chat box. I'm just going to read that out. It's for Kalpana ji. So may I know, have you come across any challenges related to lack of childcare infrastructure? How many women with small children are managing being in gig work and childcare? So if you could note that. Is there anybody else who'd like to raise a question? Are we seeing any hands, or maybe you just click your camera on and intervene? Can't see. Otherwise, I'll just ask Kalpana ji, can you answer that?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think it's the same issue about childcare, whether you're a domestic worker, whether you're a gig worker, whether you are a street vendor, or working in a factory, or working in an office. We know that workplaces do not really look at childcare as something that they have to worry about. So women, like all women, what they do is they either ask older children to look after their young children, they expect neighbors to. We know that often children are left alone as well. So yeah, there is really no, I think this is a problem across the fact that neither workplaces nor really does the government look at it, except there is the Anganwadi centers in the villages and others where it works okay. In the cities, it's more difficult because the distances are very large. And I think someone brought up the point that women then tend to find work which is very close to their home so they can go back. But I think gig work does pose a challenge because you're on the street, your timings are not this thing, though the platforms put it on the other way. They say since it's flexible, women can actually make use of that flexibility to manage their care work. But honestly, nobody's really addressing it.
Thank you so much. I see that Mr. Diraj nearby and also Ms. Lata Agrawal had their cameras on. Would you like to come with a question or intervention briefly?
I think some of them also want to ask in Hindi, Mikiko.
Okay, can you help there?
Yes, अगर आप
Yes.
हिंदी में सवाल पूछना चाहते हैं तो प्लीज आप पूछ सकते हैं. अपना कैमरा ऑन
जी,
कर
जी।
लीजिए और आप अपना अगर
हाँ।
सवाल या कोई और कुछ भी और बताना चाहते हैं यहाँ पर इस विषय में, तो आप शेयर कर सकते हैं।
जी, जी। सभी को नमस्कार। मैं भोपाल से डॉक्टर लता अग्रवाल हूँ और अभी बहुत ज्यादा इंग्लिश मुझे नहीं आती है, लेकिन फिर भी मैं जितना समझ पाई हूँ तो यह समझा मैंने कि यहाँ पर जितनी भी बात हुई है जेंडर इक्वलिटी में, उसका केंद्र महिला वुमेन्स को रखा हुआ है। उनको टारगेट करके सारे बातें यहाँ हुई हैं। तो मैं यहाँ पर अपनी एक बात रखना चाहती हूँ कि समाज का एक और वर्ग, जहां तक हम देख रहे हैं कि स्त्रियों ने काफी विकास किया है और उनके साथ परिवार और समाज का भी बहुत कुछ और राष्ट्र का भी सहयोग उनके साथ बना हुआ है, लेकिन समाज का एक और तीसरा वर्ग है जिसको हम थर्ड जेंडर कहते हैं। तो मैं समझी थी कि जेंडर इक्वलिटी में उन्हें भी शामिल किया है, तो मैं ऐसा मानती हूँ कि उस पर भी चर्चा होनी थी, क्योंकि सबसे ज्यादा पिछड़ा वर्ग जो दौड़ में सबसे पीछे है वो थर्ड जेंडर वर्ग है। तो कम से कम हमें उनको भी लेकर, उनकी समस्याओं को लेकर भी इसमें बात होनी चाहिए थी, ऐसा मैं समझ रही थी। धन्यवाद।
Could I just respond to that, Mikiko, if that's okay? If there's anybody else who wants to ask a question before that, we can take that on. Otherwise, I would like to respond to Lataji's intervention. Okay. So लता जी, आप बिल्कुल सही कह रही हैं और ये आपका जो तर्क है हम बिल्कुल इससे सहमत है। और इनफैक्ट जो कोलकाता की हमारी स्टडी थी उसमें हमने कुछ ट्रांस लोगों से भी बात की और उनके भी इश्यूज समझने की कोशिश की है। ये क्वालिटेटिव स्टडी के मत से निकल के आया है। और आप जो कह रही हैं कि ये जो इंक्लूसिविटी है इसको हमको सिर्फ विमेन के और इसके कॉन्टेक्स्ट में नहीं देखना चाहिए। ये बात बिल्कुल सही है और ये तभी शायद हो पाएगा, जैसे कि मैंने इसको एक झलक इसका मैंने बताया था कि अगर हम डिजाइनिंग में ही इन लोगों को शामिल नहीं करेंगे, ट्रांस इंडिविजुअल्स को नहीं शामिल करेंगे, तो हम नहीं देख सकेंगे कि हम उनको एक्सेस के बारे में भी बात कर सकते हैं। सो डेफिनेटली अगर हम जेंडर इंक्लूसिविटी की बात करते हैं तो हमें उनको भी साथ लेकर ही चलना है। और ये रिपोर्ट जब आएगा तो हम इसको शेयर भी करेंगे कि उनका क्या इसमें तर्क है और उनको किस तरह के एक्सेस की इश्यूज होते हैं, जिसके बारे में बहुत ही कम चर्चा अभी तक हो रही है। और हमें उनको भी साथ में लेकर चलना चाहिए। तो आप बिल्कुल सही कह रही है इस बात पर और हम धीरे धीरे अब इन स्टडीज में इनको भी इंक्लूड कर रहे हैं।
जी, जी। एक बात ये कहना चाहूंगी कि इसीलिए ये बात प्रश्न मैंने यहाँ रखा है कि थर्ड जेंडर में देश में सबसे ज्यादा काम लेखन का मैंने किया है और वो उनके साथ रहकर उनकी समस्याओं को, मेरा उद्देश्य केवल यही था कि उनकी बात को हम समाज तक पहुंचाएं। तो इस दृष्टि से मैंने उस पर काम किया है। तो मुझे ऐसा लगा कि मुझे अपनी बात रखनी चाहिए। आपने इतना संज्ञान लिया, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू।
नहीं, और मैं एक ऐड करना चाहूंगी कि not only third gender, also differently able we have to bring into when we are looking at inclusion, because caste is also a very big issue in India. So I think multiple level of inclusion we have to look at when we are considering any kind of service amenities that the state has to provide or we are demanding. I think that kind of inclusion we have to bring.
Absolutely.
Ma'am.
I was proposing that perhaps we use the last moment to see that video.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So Ishika, can you play that?
Yes.
And then after that, my video.
Yes, sure, Nandita.
जैसे कि हमें अगर रोड पे चल रहे हैं तो वॉशरूम होता नहीं है। हम लोग भी, जितनी भी स्टाफ की लड़कियां हैं हमारे, तो वो ऑन द वे देखती हैं कि कहीं रास्ते में पड़ेगा वॉशरूम तो वहाँ करते हैं। वॉशरूम की ये दिक्कत है। और खाने के लिए भी स्टाफ है, या तो वो अपनी गाड़ी में खाता है तो चारों तरफ से तो सवारियाँ खड़ी हो जाती है, वो एक एक निवाला गिनते क्योंकि उनको जाने की जल्दी होती है।
वॉशरूम तो हमारे डिपो में अवेलेबल है, लेकिन हमें जैसे हमारी ब्रेक डाउन आ जाए या हमारी गाड़ी में कुछ काम हो रहा है तो मैम हमारे लिए ना एक पर्सनल जगह नहीं है।
तो हमने पहले भी बोला था कि एक रेस्ट रूम बनाया जाए लड़कियों के लिए।
जो एक्टिव लेडीज़ें मिली, उनका हमने एक समूह बनाया। फिर हमने उनसे पूछा क्या दिक्कतें हैं आपको इस एरिया में। उन्होंने बताया शौचालय बहुत गंदा रहता है और हम जा भी नहीं पाते और इससे हमारे बच्चे बीमार पड़ रहे हैं। हम एक लेटर लिखा मैंने क्या किया, सारी लेडीज़ों से उस लेटर लिखा, उस पर सबका साइन करवाया और लेडीज़ों को लेके चले गए निगम पार्षद जी के ऑफिस। फिर उन्होंने हमारी बातचीत सुनी, सारी लेडीज़ों की बात सुनी। एक समूह जो था हमारा ग्रुप बोला ठीक है, अगले दिन से उन्होंने काम हमारा शुरू कर दिया।
हमारे यहाँ पे मतलब काफ़ी दिक्कतें थी, बस स्टॉप भी नहीं था, 2-3 किलोमीटर लोगों को पैदल चल के जाना पड़ता था। गलियों में जगह जगह बहुत ज़्यादा अंधेरा था, जिसकी वजह से चैन स्नैचिंग वगैरह होती थी। तो हमने देखा है कि ये सबसे बड़ी दिक्कत है, तो उसको हमने मतलब चुना और उसके बाद हमने बस स्टॉप भी लगवा लिया और लाइट भी लगवा ली।
मेरी कम्युनिटी में ये था कि बहुत से लोग सिंगल पेरेंट भी थे, कुछ जॉब करने वाले भी थे, हस्बैंड वाइफ दोनों, तो बच्चे यहाँ छोड़ के जा सकते थे सेफ्टी के लिए, तो इसलिए मैंने क्रैच खोला।
Okay, I'm glad we were able to show that. So, Rajeshwari, should we close? Do you have any final maybe words? And then
Nita has a 30 seconds
But
video.
am I showing or are you showing?
Oh, there's another video? Okay.
The one you have shared on the chat, right?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yes.
I can share.
Okay.
Oh, it's not going.
Should I share it?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
अरे क्या मैडम, आपको दिखाई नहीं देता भाई साहब को तकलीफ हो रही है? अरे चलिए उठिए, सीट दीजिए भाई साहब को।
ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है। क्या बोल रहे हैं आप? अरे नहीं, आप बैठ जाइए। आई एम ओके सर।
अरे नॉट ओके सर। अगर आपको कोई तकलीफ है ना, तो मेरी ड्यूटी है आपको आपकी सही जगह दिखाना।
अब जब भी करे कोई छेड़छाड़, उसे सबके सामने लाओ, उसे उसकी जगह दिखाओ।
अब आराम है?
Very sorry, this was not with subtitle. I didn't check, but we have with subtitle in English.
I think we understood that without the subtitle.
Yes. So the idea was, how do we get bystanders and conductors to be responsible for what's happening in the bus also, because that's also a very big challenge for women. So one is accessing and coming to a bus stop, what happens at the bus stop, and then what happens in the bus. So we had done a survey in Mumbai and we found 46% of women experience in the bus. And that's where we started working on this. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So, yeah, no, that was very informative, all of it. Rajeshwari, would you like to close?
I'll leave that to you, Mikiko. You can just wrap it up by maybe bringing all the discussions together. You are, I think, the best person to do that.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. I think we had a whole array of, information, experiences, different angles, a lot of overlapping themes. And, I think, apart from this whole systemic, approach that we just need to continue, I think we saw the SDG 5, but also the gender equality issue across, so many SDGs. And I think that's the whole purpose of, really looking at SDGs as a package. and then, both mainstreaming, but also looking at the different, targeted interventions that are needed to push every single point. And I really appreciate, this women's network. I don't know if you all know each other before, but the importance of it, this, I think sometimes we call it women's movements. I mean, we have to keep at it at the local level, grassroots level, to the the urban or the national, the global, regional, whatever it is. It takes a whole, community and family to push this agenda forward, and we cannot let it regress. So I really like to thank all the panelists and all of you who joined us virtually, and those in New York, including my colleagues, Juliet, I don't know if you're still on line. Please, whatever you can share with the high-level political forum of what's coming out here, including the videos and PowerPoints, please send the message. And for those who are interested to connect with the panelists, I hope there's some way of sharing the information so that further maybe alliances can be built. Thank you so much, everybody. And sorry, as a moderator, I think I went over time, but I think it was worth it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.